We begin with a frantic chase in the middle of a dense forest. Our protagonist runs desperately while a mysterious woman hunts him from the skies. He then complains that this woman won't leave him alone, almost seeming like a ghost. With that, the white-haired pursuer descends rapidly, preparing her attack. Quickly, a slicing sound echoes through the woods, indicating that something has happened. And in the next instant, the young man is hit squarely by a shadowy strike and cries out in pain. She then floats in the air with her glowing sword, ready for her next move. Soon after, she lands and stares at Chen, who is on the ground, badly hurt. Next, she asks if he thought about this day when he hurt her in the past. She continues, saying that now the tables have turned, and she is in control. Without hesitation, the girl advances and strikes our protagonist's chest with her weapon. Fallen on the ground, he wonders why he ended up in the game world right at this moment. With this, he remembers the game Outer Heaven, an open-world fantasy with a lot of freedom. In his second playthrough, the guy started as one of the capital's biggest villains. Now he doesn't understand how he became his own character right at the moment of the young woman's revenge. Chen remembers that the girl was the daughter of a prince who allied himself with a demonic sect. Following the law, the villain severely damaged her cultivation abilities, leaving her unable to practice martial arts. He thinks this bizarre transmigration is the result of arriving in an interesting world. We see a glimpse of emotion in his eyes as he processes everything. Suddenly, he finds himself standing in a room, totally confused by the situation. Still confused, he realizes that his body is the same as the character he created in the game. Then, a golden light envelopes him, and various pieces of information begin to appear in front of him. He is startled and wonders if what is appearing is some kind of system. 2 information screens appear, showing the character's current status and conditions. He remembers that to maximize his gains at the start of the game, he became someone very ruthless. Because of the Empress, the body he now possesses was poisoned and only has 3 years of life left. With that, the protagonist also remembers that in the beginning, he acquired a dragon-slaying saber technique. With this, he realizes he has only been in the new save for 10 hours, which is equivalent to 1 month in the game. Upon realizing the time, a guard calls him to confiscate a family's house. Soon after, he arrives at the prince's residence in the middle of a heavy rain. A subordinate warns that the servants are locked in the basement with their meridians sealed. Chen knows that if he follows the original path, he himself will damage the young woman's cultivation abilities. But he also remembers that after that, a master from the demonic sect appeared to rescue her. Thinking about this, the young man decides that he cannot make the same mistakes and needs a plan. With an evil smile, he devises a new strategy knowing the girl's past. His special technique allows him to absorb negative emotions to gain rewards. Meanwhile, the white-haired girl is sitting in a room looking at the rain. She then begins to have a nightmare about the guards destroying her cultivation abilities. According to the law of that place, all children from confiscated families must be disabled. Desperate, the young woman wonders if she really cannot escape this fate. In the next instant, the room door opens and Chen appears in front of the girl. With a malicious smile, he says that he can finally see her up close. Frightened, she recognizes him and asks if he is really going to destroy her cultivation abilities. At this, a screen appears showing that he gained 30 points of negative emotion. In a quick movement, the young man lifts the young woman's chin to look her in the eye. He then asks if she recognizes him, and the girl is surprised by the question. Chen affirms that he knows about her father's alliance with the demonic sect, and continues by revealing that she was chosen to be the next sacred maiden. Instead of answering how he knows this, he grabs her and says that he will decide her future. Angrily, the girl accuses him of being cruel for destroying her clan and her meridians. He approaches and whispers that now she is just a toy in his hands. She refuses to accept this and tries to resist, increasing the negative points to 35. But the protagonist is stronger and dominates her, saying that she has no choice. He throws her on the bed and says that without him, she would be taken by the demonic sect. Fallen and scared, the girl asks him not to approach her anymore. Then Chen asks if she really wants to become an assassin for the sect. Crying, she replies that this is better than being oppressed and humiliated by him. Chen then plays his final card and asks how she will face her deceased mother. Shocked, the young woman doesn't understand how he can know about the promise she made. And in a memory, we see her mother asking her to always be a good person. Our hero, now shirtless, says that he knows much more than she thinks and that she has no choice. He explains that her identity could condemn everyone in her father's mansion. Defeated, the white-haired girl agrees, saying that she has no other option. With tears in her eyes, she finally yields and says that she now belongs to him. He stands in front of her, who is lying on the bed, looking victorious. With a satisfied look, he stares at the young woman who is now under his control. Suddenly, she surprises him with a wink, trying to look more confident. But to her surprise, the young man starts to get dressed and moves away from the bed. He then reveals that his main goal now is merely to torment her. Resigned, the girl squeezes the sheets and repeats that she now belongs to him. Chen approaches and asks what comes next, and she asks what she should call him. Looking at the floor in ashamed, the young woman finally calls him master. With this, a system screen appears showing the 80 points of negative emotion he gained. He thinks he needs 20 years of Q to learn the dragon-slaying saber technique. With a strange and smiling look, the young man approaches the girl, who is startled. With a huge smile, he orders her to hand over the Great Star Absorption technique. She says that she has memorized everything, and he tells her to start reciting immediately. Sitting on the bed, she begins to recite the verses of the powerful cultivation technique. As she speaks, shining symbols come out of her and go toward the protagonist. His system confirms the technique, and the progress quickly reaches 100%. It shows that in the 3rd year of seclusion, his key was blocked because of an incomplete text. With this, in the 5th year, he studied the classics and restored the text, gaining the ability to absorb Q. After 10 years, he used the technique to obtain initial Q, but the scroll still needs to be perfected. Even though it is a fragment of the technique, the protagonist thinks it is more than enough for now. Next, he decides to inject the true QI he accumulated to finally learn the saber technique. Energy flows into his sword, and he prepares to master the powerful dragon-slaying technique. It reveals that in 10 years, he completely understood and mastered the technique, reaching the master level. With a satisfied smile, the young man clenches his fist, feeling the power of the newly learned technique. Soon after, he throws a hood to the young woman and tells her to cover up because they are leaving. Confused, the white-haired girl puts on the hood and asks what is happening. Outside the residence, the rain continues heavily, and several guards are positioned in the courtyard. Chen leaves the room accompanied by the hooded young woman and his subordinate. He then tells the guard that he is taking the servant for interrogation and orders him to continue the confiscation. Maliciously, the subordinate smiles and asks if Chen really thinks he is blind. Other guards comment that they cannot let the protagonist have all the fun with the girl by himself. As they walk, the young woman says that she has already heard about him and describes him as corrupt and without skill. Chen smiles and compliments the girl for managing to criticize him with so many adjectives in one sentence. At this, a man approaches and says that arbitrarily interrogating a convict is against the rules. This man demands that Chen hand over the criminal, and the young woman says that his punishment has arrived. Chen questions him about the rules, and the subordinate says that everyone there knows his real strength. With a smile, Chen says that he did not expect to find a demonic cultist among the guards. The other man is shocked by the revelation and asks how the protagonist knows this. Chen says that he did not plan to expose him, but since he appeared, the guy will accept the challenge. With this, the other guards who were with the traitor advance to attack our hero. But without any effort, he defends himself with a single sword strike, taking down everyone at once. After the quick fight, the protagonist leaves the location and the white-haired girl goes with him. Elsewhere, a group of men wonders where Commander Chen has gone. At that moment, the protagonist appears at the door and introduces himself to an older man. This man is Director Wu, and he questions what happened and why Chen arrived first. Surrounded by the director's men, Chen finds himself being stared at suspiciously. With a smirk, the protagonist asks if Director Wu is suspecting him. Visibly nervous, Director Wu stammers, saying that's not exactly what he meant. Then Chen explains that his martial arts are weak and that he received a technique from a commander. He points to Commander Li, who confirms the story, much to the surprise of everyone there. Having resolved the suspicion, our protagonist turns and begins to walk away. With tears in his eyes, he begins a dramatic speech about loyalty and sacrifice. He kneels near a body and says that the manual he received was given by Director Shu. Director Wu apologizes, and Chen laments his incompetence for not having saved Director Shu. Standing up, he gives a speech about how Director Shu sacrificed himself for the Eastern Depot. Finally, he points to the other bodies and hopes that their passing will not be in vain. Guards comment that Commander Chen is very fair and does not seek credit for himself. With this, Director Wu promises that he will report the whole truth without hiding anything. Meanwhile, a blue-haired girl walks thoughtfully under the heavy rain. She then wonders what true strength our protagonist is hiding. In her mind, she remembers the dragon-slaying saber technique that he used. The commander finds everything very confusing and feels that there is something wrong with the young man. At that moment, Chen appears in front of her, completely surprising the girl. Getting straight to the point, Chen asks where the girl he is looking for is. Frightened, she replies that the young woman is inside and that she has already taken care of her injuries. He then threatens her, telling her to be careful if she wants to take the girl away from there. He reveals that the person she is protecting is not only the princess but also her sister. In shock, the blue-haired girl offers a strange agreement to protect her sister. Not understanding anything, the young man grabs her and says that they will enter the palace together. In a sudden movement, the protagonist kisses her, leaving the young woman totally surprised. This action leaves her paralyzed, not knowing how to react to his unexpected attitude. Soon after, he releases her to the ground and tells her to leave without trying anything else. The scene then changes, showing a camp during the night with several illuminated tents. Inside one of them, a vice director is counting the bodies of those who passed away in the battle. He reports that everyone has been registered, and Director Wu laments the losses to save the capital. He approaches his superior and says that he is worried about the sect's survivors. He explains that his concern is because 21 bodies were found in the same place. Director Wu does not understand the reason for the worry and asks the vice director to explain better. The vice director reports that the investigating officer saw that almost everyone was finished with just one blow. He remembers that Director Shu is a 5th-rank martial artist and very powerful. With this, he concludes that the demonic sect still has a very powerful master at large. Director Wu theorizes that the master might be 6th rank, but the vice director fears it could be worse. At that moment, a guard enters the tent and announces that someone sent by Elder Lin wants to see him. Surprised by how quickly the news traveled, the director orders the guard to let the messenger enter. A white-haired man enters and greets Director Wu, who recognizes him as young Master Lin. Visibly tense, Director Wu reacts to the presence of the young man, who seems to command a lot of respect. young Master Lin sits down and says that his father sent him to ask about the sect's attack. He reports that he has already sent someone to notify Elder Lin's mansion. Young Master Lin says that since the director position is vacant, he wants to know if there are candidates. He suggests that they recommend a suitable candidate since everyone serves the Imperial House. Director Wu then suggests that Vice Director Song temporarily assume the position. Young Master Lin asks Vice Director Song directly for his opinion on this. Vice Director Song immediately refuses the offer, saying that he is not capable and fears disappointing them. With the refusal, young Master Lin suggests that Chen be promoted for his great contribution. But Director Wu points out that there is only one Chiliarch position, and that would be a problem. Without a clear solution, Director Wu and Vice Director Song fall silent and thoughtful. Song suggests demoting Chiliarch men who disappeared and leaving the position vacant for Chen. At this, Director Wu agrees because Chen has Elder Lin's trust and the position is temporary. Far away, young Master Lin calmly sips his tea, satisfied with his plan. Returning to a peaceful residence, the scene is set during the night. Inside a room, the protagonist is sitting next to the sleeping white-haired girl. It doesn't take long for the young woman to wake up, and the young man notices that she has finally stirred. He then approaches and asks if she now understands that she was completely wrong. She guarantees that she will not dare to run away again after everything. Chen warns her, saying that next time, he will not be so generous. With a smile, he warns that if she runs away again, she will have to pay an unbearable price. Next, he reveals the good news that the demonic sect Saintess was reported as having passed away. He explains that he had someone impersonate her and perish in her place. With this, he boasts, saying that he did a great favor for the girl with his plan. Shirtless, the guy approaches and says that it is time for her to return the favor. She gets a very uncomfortable expression as he approaches. At this, the protagonist begins to approach her in a much more intimate way. She refuses to leave and says that she will stay there with him, showing her stubbornness. Becoming more assertive, Chen makes a move that elicits a surprised sound from the young woman. He is very close to her and orders her to serve him well from now on. She then realizes something and wonders if his preference for men was fake. Chen kisses her intensely and she is surprised by his attitude. Amidst the kiss, she tries to say something, but he doesn't let her speak anything at the moment. Suddenly, the mood is interrupted by a guard who announces that the Regent Master is looking for him. 15 minutes later, our hero is ready to meet the Master. He arrives at a large palace under the starry sky, preparing for the meeting. Upon entering, he greets young Master Lin and Chief Wu, who are already waiting for him. In his thoughts, the young man knows that the Lin faction is known for its corruption. Even so, he wonders what important matter young Master Lin would have with him. At this, Chief Wu announces that young Master Lin recommend him to be the successor. Chen feigns surprise and says that this matter needs to be carefully considered. Young Master Lin says that if he refuses, he will displease his father and hands him an invitation. He insists that Chen is the most suitable candidate and that many desire this opportunity. Young Master Lin continues, saying that with him in charge, his father can rest easy. With this, the protagonist realizes that the Lin faction is determined to ally with him. Lin says that his father has always looked out for him and hopes he won't refuse. After the conversation, young Master Lin says goodbye and leaves the room, leaving the others behind. Chen holds the invitation and thinks that this time, there is no way to escape the meeting. Before leaving, Chief Wu says that he also has something to give to the commander. He hands him a blue book and explains that it is one of the 2 great fist techniques. Taking the book, Chen asks where that powerful technique manual came from. He thinks that the technique manual should only appear in a mid-game event. Chief Wu then explains that Master Min gave him the technique to deliver to someone worthy. With a gesture of respect, our protagonist thanks the chief for the trust placed in him. He then warns that the Music Academy is inventorying Prince Go's mansion. Half an hour later, we arrive at the academy, and a tense atmosphere already hangs in the air. Inside, a white-haired man shouts for someone to stop hiding and fight. Suddenly, the protagonist appears behind the guy and provokes him with a dark smile. Surprised, the enemy quickly turns, preparing his sword for the attack. In the blink of an eye, several men are hit by a shadowy strike and fall to the ground. Shocked by the speed and power of our hero, the white-haired man is left reeling. With a cold look and a red glowing eye, Chen observes the scene from the rooftop. Speechless, the enemy realizes the commander's level of power. He then recognizes the dragon-slaying saber technique that the protagonist used. With a victorious smile, the young man says that he will take all the Q that was delivered to him. At this, he begins to absorb the opponent's energy while the hooded girl watches. Terrified, the young woman realizes that the rumors about him being weak were lies. With a clenched fist, the protagonist shows that the fight is already over for the enemy. He then turns to the kneeling girl and asks if she wasn't full of herself before. In a quick movement, the young man grabs her by the hood, startling the girl. Very close to her face, he reminds her that she now belongs entirely to him. She stares at the protagonist with a vulnerable look in the rain. She then asks why he treats her like this, and a screen shows his gains from it. Meanwhile, a blue-haired young woman observes the fallen bodies on the ground, impressed. She recognizes the saber technique and wonders how Chen mastered it so quickly. With this, the girl decides to investigate the young man's past and help him against the sect. A shift in scene reveals a room where the blue-haired young woman talks about the protagonist. A pink-haired woman lying down says that she remembers the man her sister mentioned. She asks her sister to investigate Chen because he seems very strange. At this, the sister teases her, saying that it is rare to see her interested in a man like that. Completely embarrassed by the comment, the blue-haired young woman chokes on her tea. She tries to hide her feelings, saying that he is just a pretty face and nothing more than that. Her older sister warns her to take the matter seriously, and then says goodbye to her. Deciding to meet Chen and discover his secrets, the pink-haired young woman prepares herself. The scene takes us to Chen, who is relaxing in a hot bath. He reads a demonic sect manual and thinks about putting all his QI into the technique. While he is in the bath, something seems to move outside the window. Suddenly, the young man senses a presence and asks who is hiding nearby. In an instant, he grabs his sword and gets dressed to face the possible threat. Already outside, he shouts for whoever is there to show themselves and stop the tricks. He stands in the rain looking around but finds no one nearby. Suddenly, the pink-haired sister appears in front of the protagonist, all dressed up and smiling. Staring at her, Chen then says that he thinks he has seen her before in a city pleasure house. With a serious look, he adds that she has even been one of his clients. Unfazed, the young woman offers a seductive smile and invites him to come in and talk. Suspicious, the protagonist asks if she really wants him to enter with her. She approaches and says that she would pay for a night with him. With this, the young man grabs her and throws her onto the bed, saying that he will fulfill her request. She seems to like his attitude and calls him impatient with a smile on her face. But instead of continuing the mood, he draws his sword and completely surprises her. She comments on how rough he is being about the situation. Chen then warns her that seducing him in that way comes with a very high price. Next, he begins absorbing the girl's energy, and she cries out during the process. A system screen shows that he gained 10 years of QI and thanks her for the payment. Appearing to be in a trance, the girl mentions the name of a sword and Min Ming. Chen then realizes that the plot has changed because of his previous actions. Fallen on the ground, the young woman begs the commander to spare her because she meant no harm. Chen approaches and asks who sent her, but she says it was on her own accord. With a threatening look, he reminds her that breaking into a house at night is a serious crime. Using her charm, the young woman tries to offer to be his sworn wife. But the protagonist rejects her and asks if she never thought that he wouldn't be interested. With this, the pink-haired girl generates 80 points of negative emotion for the protagonist. He is satisfied for being able to trigger her negative emotion so easily. Defeated, the young woman asks what exactly Commander Chen wants from her now. Chen dismisses her and tells her to stop investigating him immediately. Surprised by his attitude, the pink-haired girl is left not knowing how to react. He then approaches her and stares at her with a serious and intimidating look. Outside, the blue-haired sister asks about the courtesan from the pleasure house. Chen leaves with the sister and tells her not to worry because she is fine. Furious about the situation, the blue-haired young woman draws her sword. She threatens him, saying that he will be punished if he harms the relative of an official. With one blow, Chen breaks her sword and shows his superiority. She then says that she will investigate on her own but needs his help. She explains about the demonic sect and orders him to help her hunt down the members. With an evil smile, the protagonist says that they cannot get away with it. He then remembers a game event where several sects gather. Based on the date, he realizes that the event is about to happen in the capital. A group of men comments on the arrival of a mysterious woman in the city. They find her behavior strange and notice that she seems to be waiting for someone. The woman in question is Zhou Yitang sitting in a tea house. This scene shows a place with a very strong and mysterious spiritual energy. Beginning, the scene shows an elder from the divine sect talking to one of his subordinates. With this, Chen and the blue-haired girl arrive to bid farewell to Elder Lai. Elder Li feels a bit awkward about the reception and thinks he is drawing too much attention. At this, the protagonist warns him that the Eastern Depot is planning to arrest him soon. She says that with their help, the Eastern Depot will not do anything. Maliciously, Chen then smiles and says that he will guarantee the Elder's departure. Elder Li feels flattered to have Commander Chen himself personally escorting him. With a provocative look, the protagonist asks if the Elder will not buy him a drink. The Elder agrees and begins to serve tea to everyone at the table with him. Suddenly, the blue-haired girl notices something wrong and grips her sword tightly. But Chen stops her and says that since he is saying goodbye to the Elder, it is his duty to serve. Then our protagonist takes the teapot and serves a cup of tea to the old man. Without suspecting anything, Elder Li thanks the young man for the kind gesture. And in the next instant, he drinks all the content of the cup that Chen served him. Shifting to a large ship, the scene shows it sailing in calm waters. We see the imposing wooden ship slowly approaching the shore. Finally, the boat docks, and a ramp is put down for the passengers to disembark. Elder Li thanks them for the farewell and says that it is now time to board the ship. Our protagonist then wishes the old man a good trip with a hidden smile. With this, Elder Li and his men walk towards the ship to start the journey. Suddenly, Elder Li begins to feel the effects of the poison in his body. He then falls to the ground and spits out a large amount of red liquid from his mouth. Shocked, the old man realizes that the tea the protagonist served him was poisoned. Our hero grabs the elder by the hair and stares at him with a cold look. With a single sword strike, the protagonist swiftly finishes off the old man. He then turns to the blue-haired girl and questions her about her help. Not understanding anything that just happened, the men from the Eastern Depot are left confused. She then shouts for everyone to follow Commander Chen and eliminate the cultists. Obeying, the men advance into the fight, following their commander's orders. Leading the attack, the blue-haired girl defeats several enemies with her sword. Meanwhile, the protagonist absorbs the energy of a fallen enemy on the ground. A system screen informs that he absorbed 60 years of Chuai from the opponent. With a determined look, he prepares to face a stronger opponent. Beginning, the fight unleashes a large explosion of dust that takes over the battlefield. Chen advances and attacks the enemy with a quick and precise sword strike. He tries to defend himself, but Chen is faster and hits him squarely. With the enemy on the ground, our hero stares at him with contempt and disdain. He then grabs the opponent's face and begins to absorb his vital energy. A system screen confirms that he absorbed another 20 years of QI from the enemy. Feeling the power flow, the young man says that he will finish everyone off faster. With a single sword strike, he creates an energy wave that hits several enemies. Hit squarely, the cultists cry out in pain from the young man's attack power. Impressed, the blue-haired girl says that he is strong and very courageous. A system screen shows that he accumulated 210 years of internal QI. Suddenly, the protagonist feels the effects of absorbing so much QI all at once. He realizes that his meridians will not hold up if he doesn't rest soon. Worried, the blue-haired young woman approaches, but he says that he is fine and they need to go. Next, the scene takes us to the streets of a city with very traditional architecture. The two ride together, and the girl warns him to hold on so he doesn't fall off the horse. With this, the young man hands her the saber technique manual that she had lost. With a smirk, he begins to tease her about one of her subordinates. He then suggests that one of his men has feelings for her in a different way. Shocked and embarrassed, the girl generates 92 points of negative emotion. She shouts at him furiously and tells him to immediately let go of that embrace. With a satisfied smile, the protagonist realizes that his plan worked perfectly. In a tavern, a group of men comments on the young and ruthless leader who has emerged. Watching the young man, the mysterious woman from the tea house comments on his techniques. She says that she hasn't seen him for years and that he looks much thinner than before. Suddenly, a scream in the street draws attention, and someone tells the protagonist to dismount. Thanking him for the escort, the blue-haired girl says goodbye to Chen, who is running beside the horse. He says goodbye to the girl with a wave, and she is furious at the humiliation. With this, the protagonist returns to his residence and begins to meditate to recover. Besides the yin-yang art, he now controls 3 more manuals of powerful techniques. With a smile, he thinks that he only needs a defensive technique to be invincible. Next, he begins to infuse his ki into one of the techniques to master it. As the energy flows through his meridians, he finds himself in a tranquil and green place. He then observes an eagle and realizes that its technique complements his own. After 23 years of training, he finally masters the saber technique. The system shows that he learned the technique with double the efficiency. With the sword in hand, he continues his training to perfect it even further. After 37 years, he fuses the 2 techniques and creates a new sword style. He names the new technique C Reversing Blade, showing its power. It confirms that he perfected both techniques and mastered them completely. With a sigh of relief, the young man finally finishes his long training. Observing him from afar, the white-haired girl is surprised by his presence. She is startled to realize that he saw her and doesn't know what to do. Chen reprimands her, saying that spying is not a very good habit. Trying to explain herself, the young woman says that she heard a conversation about him and got curious. Without paying much attention, the young man tells her to fetch some water for him. Submissively, the girl tends to the protagonist's feet as the scene ends. With a victorious smile, he says that her punishment for spying is very minor. She asks why he humiliates her so much in that way. Chen teases her, asking if she doesn't like washing his feet. He then pulls her up and invites her to sleep with him in bed. She lets out a little scream of surprise at the young man's sudden action. Lying in bed, he asks her not to move and to stay there with him. Confused by the situation, the young woman doesn't understand what he is trying to do. Then the scene takes us to the imposing Eastern depot during the night. Inside, Director Shuyu is calmly enjoying a cup of tea alone. Suddenly, a subordinate enters and reports that Chen attacked the ship and eliminated everyone. Confused, the director doesn't understand why he would act so correctly. He decides that he cannot let this go and that Chen needs a warning. He then suggests making a report about the maid he took. Remembering he is also under the protection of Secretary Lin, the director is not afraid. With this, he decides that he will go to the palace to overthrow the Western Depot official. 2 days later, the protagonist is called for a meeting at the palace. Upon entering the room, he asks what Director Wu wishes to talk about with him. He then walks through the large hall toward the throne where the director is. Director Wu of the Western Depot stares at him and asks if he knows what crime he committed. With a gesture of respect, our hero says that he awaits the director's guidance. Throwing a book on the ground, Director Wu warns Chen that he is practically done for. Chen picks up the book and sees that it is a report that Director Shu made about him. Director Wu explains that because of the hierarchy, he cannot do much. He continues, saying that if Chen is reported, everyone in the Western Depot will lose. A subordinate then suggests that he return the maid to the prince's property. If he does not obey, the only path left to him will be certain demise. Our hero thanks him for the warning and says that he now knows exactly what to do. But the subordinate warns him to be careful and not break the depot's rules. With everything resolved, Director Wu dismisses the two and tells them to leave. Thanking the director for his impartiality, Chen withdraws from the room with the other man. Upon leaving, the subordinate approaches and says that he has something to report to the official. Whispering in Chen's ear, the subordinate asks if Director Shu knows about the maiden. With a smile, he explains that he eliminated the sect members to protect the depot. He then reveals that the sect is trying to ally with a prince in the court. Chen whispers that the sect has a big plan underway in the capital. This plan involves the appearance of the sacred maiden, and the Eastern Depot is involved. Shocked by the revelation, the subordinate's expression changes completely. Chen continues, saying that he attacked to cut ties and retreat in time. With a smile, the subordinate thanks him for the warning and asks how he can repay him. He feels awkward, saying that the manual Chen wants cannot be shared. Chen pressures him and asks if the Eastern Depot doesn't repay kindness. Speechless at the young man's audacity, the subordinate gives in to the pressure. Without another option, he hands over the manual and says that they are not ungrateful. With the manual in hand, our hero says goodbye and leaves that place. He then turns with a smile and says that they will meet again soon. It confirms that he gained the bronze bone art, and the cultivation begins. For 3 years, he trains tirelessly, strengthening his body with brutal techniques. After 10 years, he refines his body and reaches the maximum limit of that technique. With the art complete, his body becomes as resilient as iron armor. It informs that he reached the initial level of the technique and still has energy. Chen then realizes that he needs to find Min Ming before her sister visits her. Half an hour later, he arrives at a large building with traditional architecture. He then knocks on the room door and waits for someone to answer. She asks what he is doing there, and the protagonist enters. With a smirk, he says that he has something to discuss with her. Trying to dismiss him, the young woman says that she is hungover and cannot see him. But the young man threatens her, saying that she doesn't want her sister to come home. The door then opens, revealing the pink-haired girl who does not understand the threat. She is shocked by the commander's audacity and doesn't know what he wants. Chen enters the room and the young woman plays the victim, asking why he is persecuting her. He questions her about her weakness and mentions a secret organization. He reveals that he knows she is an agent placed to watch him in the pleasure house. She asks if he only came there to expose her past. Shifting to the past, the scene shows her sister becoming an official of the Eastern Depot. After 5 years of hard work, she climbed the ranks and became a commander. Chen then says that her only problem is having a sister who is a spy. Annoyed, the young woman asks what exactly he wants from her in the end. With this, the protagonist orders her to spread a rumor about the demonic sect. He warns her not to try any tricks because her sister's future is in his hands. Furious, the pink-haired girl says that he is going too far. Our hero then goes down the stairs and leaves her alone with the order. He walks through the corridor, and his steps echo through the silence of the place. At that moment, her sister arrives and asks what she is doing there. Trying to calm her sister down, the blue-haired young woman promises that she will deal with him. The next day, the protagonist walks through the bustling streets of the city. Hidden from view, the blue-haired girl follows him from afar. But the young man notices that he is being followed and becomes suspicious of the situation. She wonders where he is going and continues to follow him in secret. He then turns and realizes that it is her who is following him through the city. With a smirk, the protagonist decides that he will give her a good show. He arrives at an outpost of the demonic sect and waits for the girl to accompany him. With a knock on the door, he prepares to enter the cultist's hiding place. Someone peeks through the crack in the door and asks who is outside. Chen then says a secret password to prove that he is an ally. The man at the door recognizes him as one of their own and invites him in. Upon entering, he thanks him and walks inside the sect's hiding place. One of the members questions him about his identity and why he has never seen him before. He explains that they have many spies and it is normal not to know everyone. Sitting on the throne, the outpost leader asks the newcomer to introduce himself. Our hero then recites a poem that serves as a secret identification. Shocked, the members of the sect recognize the young man's cultivation technique. With a gesture of respect, he introduces himself as Song Shengbao and swears loyalty. Hidden, the blue-haired girl is surprised to discover that he is from the sect. She then realizes that he used the technique to steal QI from her sister. The leader questions why such an important spy would reveal himself so suddenly. Chen explains that the Eastern Depot is just waiting for an opportunity. He continues, saying that they are being used and that the maiden is in danger. With a serious look, he warns that if they continue to trust the Depot, it will be the end. Hearing everything, the blue-haired girl realizes the seriousness of the situation. He insists that they can no longer wait and that the sect is in danger. The sect leader questions whether the Eastern Depot leaked the information on purpose. With a punch on the table, one of the members suggests that they attack first and without hesitation. But the leader ponders and says that the Depot has too much power and it would be too risky. He insists, saying that it is worth risking everything for the sacred maiden. Chen then says goodbye and says that he has already said everything he needed to them. Hidden, the blue-haired girl realizes that that man is extremely dangerous. She then decides that she needs to discover who he really is and follows him. Suddenly, she steps on a rope and activates a trap that releases a gas. A green smoke takes over the place, and the young woman is stunned by the effect. She realizes the danger and tries to flee, but is already too late to escape. Falling to the ground, the blue-haired girl's hands tremble with the poison. The trap's noise alerts the sect members who are inside the hiding place. One of them shouts that a thief activated the trap and tells the others to check. A group of men rushes outside to see what happened. With a bamboo tube, the leader blows an antidote for the toxic smoke. Upon opening the door, they find the blue-haired girl fallen on the ground. One of the men is surprised to see that the intruder is a Depot commander. Chen and the leader approach and observe the girl passed out on the ground. The sect leader asks if the young man knows the young woman, and he confirms it right away. With a smirk, he says that it would be impossible not to recognize a commander. She accuses him of being from the sect and says that he will have a horrible end. One of the members of the sect is irritated by the noise and advances to silence her, but the protagonist stops him and tells him to wait a bit before acting. He then suggests that they take her to a deserted place so as not to be tracked. The leader agrees and compliments the young man for being so cautious about the situation. He then orders 2 of his men to take her to the suburbs. Shifting to a dense and tranquil forest, the scene shows a mysterious glow. Tied up and thrown on the ground, the blue-haired girl is defenseless and vulnerable. Commenting on her beauty, the 2 men discuss how one blames her for not converting. Irritated by her resistance, the cultist warns her that today will be her end. With a shout of anger, he raises his sword to deliver the final blow to the young woman. Suddenly, something dark hits him, and he is paralyzed with pain and surprise. Screaming, the man's body is taken over by the dark energy that consumes him. Chen appears and questions why he really tried to end the girl's life. Shocked, the other cultist doesn't understand what our hero is doing. With a single sword strike, the protagonist swiftly finishes off the second man. It informs him of the amount of energy each of the men possessed. Chen then approaches the tied-up girl and provokes her with a smile. With his approach, she generates 80 points of negative emotion for the system. He then offers her an antidote for the poison and tells her to swallow the pill. Swallowing the pill, the blue-haired girl feels the effects of the antidote. She realizes that the weakness is gone and that the pill was indeed the antidote. With the sword in hand, she questions him about his true intentions and plans. Chen reveals that everything was just a big setup to deceive them. He throws the cultists' bodies on the ground, and the young woman is shocked by the scene. Chen then tells her to take the bodies to the depot and incriminate the sect. With a smirk, he says that using the depot to finish off the sect is good. She realizes that he's manipulating both sides for his own purposes. Chen warns her to follow the plan, or he will go to the pleasure house with her sister. Far away, a man asks where the information about the sacred maiden came from. A subordinate reports that a rumor is spreading about the protection of the depot. He wonders if the sect is trying to force them to protect them even more. But the subordinate thinks that they are just taking advantage of the situation and the authority. He then orders them to cut contact with the sect and give them a warning. He also tells them to investigate the maiden, and if it is true, they should attack first. With this, the subordinate hands the director the heads of the men he eliminated. The blue-haired girl arrives, saying that she has something important to report. Recognizing her as the section chief, the subordinate lets her pass to speak. Then, the scene takes us to the front of an establishment with a wooden sign. A man bangs on the door hard and seems very irritated about something. Arriving wounded at the hiding place, Chen bangs on the door desperately. Surprised to see him in that state, the sect leader asks what happened. Chen says that the section chief pretended to be poisoned and attacked them by surprise. Furious, the leader says that the Eastern Depot went too far with its betrayal. Saying goodbye, Chen leaves as the elder promises that he will avenge their fallen companions. With a gesture of gratitude, the young man withdraws from the hiding place and goes away. Several hours later, the scene takes us to a tranquil residence during the night. Our hero is relaxing in the bath and thinks about his plan to create distrust. With an evil smile, he reveals that he wants them to turn against each other. Suddenly, the white-haired girl enters the bathroom and says that he called her. Chen pulls her close and says that he has something important to tell her. He then throws her into the bathtub, and the young woman lets out a scream of surprise at the fall. She thrashes in the water and tries to break free from the young man's hands that are holding her. She asks him not to do that, and he says that she already knows. With his approach, she generates 85 points of negative emotion for the system. He provokes her, asking if she will submit after so much time together. With a satisfied smile, the young man realizes that his provocation is working. Trying to move away, the young woman is held tightly by him, unable to escape. She screams in despair and tries to resist our protagonist's advance. In the end, he holds her with more strength and prevents her from breaking free from the bathtub. With a smile, he says that this is a death contract and tells her to sign it. Completely shocked, the white-haired girl doesn't understand anything. Chen explains that from now on, she will live under a false name. He then forces her to sign the contract, holding her hand tightly. Having no choice, the young woman ends up signing the paper he gave her. Chen questions her if she really thinks she will get her freedom. With tears in her eyes, she realizes that her happy life is very far away. Chen gets out of the bath and tells her to stay there quietly and in peace. The scene shifts to a full moon night with a clean, starry sky. Observing the residence from afar, the blue-haired girl is on the rooftop. She then lands in the courtyard and says that her accounts with Chen are settled. Approaching the door, she peeks through the crack to see what is inside. An eye appears in the crack and peeks back at her, surprising her with the scene. Shocked, the white-haired girl sees the other one spying through the door. Staring at each other, the two are silent, and the blue-haired young woman doesn't know what to say. 15 minutes later, the protagonist walks through the residence calmly. He thinks that the demonic sect must already be moving according to his calculations. Suddenly, he feels that something is wrong and becomes alert to the situation. He runs back to the bathroom but finds no one inside. Chen then realizes that the white-haired girl has disappeared from the room. He finds a note on the bed and realizes that someone has been there. It tells him to look for her sister if he doesn't want the secret to leak. With a smirk, the protagonist realizes that it was her who took the girl. The next day, in a wooden cabin, the blue-haired young woman waits impatiently. She wonders why he hasn't arrived yet and fears that he might have gone somewhere else. Suddenly, she hears a noise and prepares for the arrival of someone. With a smirk, she realizes that her guests have finally arrived. She then turns and extends her hand to welcome them with a confident look, but instead of the protagonist, she is faced with the blade of a sharp sword. The cabin wall is destroyed and a group of hooded men invades the place. They accuse her of kidnapping the maiden and confirm that the depot abducted her. Realizing the situation is very bad for her, the blue-haired girl tries to think. Revolting, the sect members shout that the Eastern depot is not trustworthy. Far away, a subordinate reports to the director that the demonic sect attacked them. He orders that everyone follow him to the training ground to fight. With a sword strike, he releases a wave of blue energy and prepares for the battle. A large sect army gathers in front of the Eastern depot in the rain. Preparing for the fight, the depot men shout that they will eliminate the demons. Beginning, the battle sees a man advance to attack the director with his sword. With a serious and determined look to win the fight, the director watches the scene. He defeats one of the cultists with a single blow in the middle of the rain. Falling to the ground, the red liquid from the enemy spreads across the wet courtyard. With a clenched fist, the director orders everyone to eliminate the maiden without hesitation. Shifting to the rainy streets, the scene shows the city with a dark atmosphere. A foot steps into a puddle of water and reveals the presence of someone moving. Fleeing with the maiden, the blue-haired girl doesn't understand how the sect found them. One of the cultists points to them and reveals that the maiden is with the depot man. They fly to the attack and shout to save the sacred maiden. Surrounded, the two are cornered, and the blue-haired young woman realizes that there is no escape. One of the men advances with a sword strike and tells her to release the maiden. Defending herself, the girl realizes that she needs to get rid of them as quickly as possible. With a determined look, she prepares to use her most powerful technique. She then uses the dragon blade strike and hits several enemies at once. One of the cultists advances with sharp claws and says that she will not take the maiden. Defending herself from the attack, the blue-haired young woman keeps the battle intense. Suddenly, the white-haired girl is hit by a blow and screams in pain. Shocked by his error, the cultist realizes that he hit her by mistake. With the maiden injured, one of the men says that now it is the end for the commander. She stares at him with a look of fear and despair. Dark energy takes over the place, and the scene ends with a climate of tension. Startled, the white-haired girl sees the body of a cultist fall. Someone holds her arm and pulls her to a safer place. Guiding her through the rain, the blue-haired young woman takes her away from the confusion. Suddenly, a group of men appears and calls for Captain Min. They ask what is happening and who the girl that is with her is. One of the men accuses her of protecting the sacred maiden and calls her daring. He insists that she is disobeying Governor Shu's orders. Suddenly, a mysterious voice tells everyone to stop and the tension increases. Emerging in the rain, Chen says that he was looking for the captain. Running to him, the white-haired girl begs for his help and protection. Confused, the depot men ask who is there with them. Our hero attacks the guards with dark energy and defeats them. With a cold look, he complains about the noise and shows his superiority. One of the men calls him a traitor and advances to attack him with his sword. Chen defends himself from the blow, and the sword blade clashes with his. With a rapid movement, he disarms the enemy and prepares for the counter-attack. He then says that the guard is no match for him and attacks him with his technique. With a sword strike, he releases a wave of golden energy and defeats him. Shocked by the incredible speed of our protagonist, the enemy stares. The scene ends with Chen's hand firmly gripping the hilt of his sword. With a threatening look, he says that anyone who sees the maiden will perish. He then releases a wave of golden energy that hits everyone around him. One of the men accuses him of being a member of the sect and prepares to attack. Advancing with a sword strike, the enemy coats the blade in blue energy. But the protagonist defends himself and uses his own sword technique to fight back. Shocked, the man sees that his attack was blocked with so much ease. With a single blow, the young man defeats him, and the man screams in pain from the impact. Shocked, the blue-haired girl sees that he used her technique. Chen then orders her to take the maiden to his residence. He warns her that if she is not there when he arrives, things will get ugly. Turning, the young man leaves, abandoning the young woman with the fallen maiden. Then, the scene takes us to the battle between the sect and the Eastern Depot. One of the cultists questions why the elder betrayed them after so long. Irritated, the sect leader says that liars like him deserve to perish. Intensifying, the battle between the two leaders involves powerful blows from both sides. He is hit by a dark blow but manages to defend himself from the attack. Advancing with his staff, the sect leader prepares for the final blow. He says that if he doesn't eliminate him there, he won't be able to leave that place alive. With a shout of fury, the leader of the sect attacks the director with all his strength. But the director is faster and hits him squarely with a sword strike. He prepares to attack the sect leader, who has fallen on the ground. Suddenly, the protagonist appears and stops him from delivering the final blow to the enemy. With the director injured on the ground, our hero approaches with a victorious look. With a smirk, he greets Director Shu and provokes him with the situation. In a quick movement, he advances and attacks the director with his sharp sword. Chen lands a blow and the director feels the impact of the strike. With his hand on the director's face, he begins to inject his QI into his body. Screaming in pain, the director reacts as the energy flows through his meridians and veins. He doesn't understand why the young man is doing that and struggles with the pain. Chen then steps on one of the cultists and says that the plan is complete. Approaching, the white-haired girl stares at him, not understanding the situation. She covers herself with a hood and says that with a scapegoat, everything will be fine. Our hero then walks across the courtyard and the blue-haired young woman observes him. He approaches her and stares at her with a serious and intimidating look. Chen questions her about her presence there, and she is surprised. She says that she was helping to check the list of those who passed away. Chen provokes her, saying that he didn't expect her to do that kind of work. Embarrassed, the young woman asks him not to humiliate her in that way. She then asks him to let her sister leave and promises to make things easier. But the protagonist says that just making things easier is not enough for him. It shows that he gained 3 years of vital energy with her emotion. With a smirk, he thinks about his options and what to do with the energy. He then says that in 10 days there will be the prayer ceremony and stares at her. Approaching her, Chen warns that if she tries to threaten him, she will be disappointed. He then holds her by the waist and pulls her close to him with a seductive look. In a quick move, he kisses her, and the blue-haired girl is surprised. She asks him to stop and says that there are people nearby, but he doesn't care. Chen questions her about her grandfather's fist technique and surprises her. Shocked, the young woman asks how he knows about her family's martial art. With a smile, he says that he has the manual for the technique right there with him. She doesn't believe it and says that it is impossible because even her father didn't receive the manual. Chen then shows the book and proves that he is telling the truth. Shocked, the blue-haired girl sees that the manual is really true. Some hours later, the two sisters are talking in a quiet room. She asks if he really wants both of them to enter the palace. Her younger sister confirms and reveals that he has the manual of their grandfather. She questions her if she is really going to sacrifice herself for him. The younger woman says that she needs to get closer to him and play along. With a determined look, she affirms that she knows what she is doing and will not regret it. She then says that she is willing to sacrifice herself to protect her older sister. Lamenting her uselessness and making the younger one suffer so much, the older sister is upset. An older woman observes the scene and comments on the beautiful love between the sisters. She reminds the pink-haired girl about the cooperation with the commander. She says that with Shu's passing, Minister Lin no longer has anyone to use. She then orders her to approach Commander Chen and become his friend. Reminding her that she is the most famous courtesan, the older woman says she should return the favor. She then instructs the young woman not to become his concubine but also not to refuse. She suggests that she be his first client to win his heart and trust. She then hands her a poison and tells her to find an opportunity to use it. She asks how she should poison him with that vial. She explains that she should carry the poison on her body during the act of pleasure. Then the scene takes us to the imposing Lin family residence in the mountains. An older man is meditating and asks for more incense to be added to the environment. His son approaches and says that he doesn't understand why he cares so much about Chen. He reveals that the Empress Dowager will summon our protagonist today. Confused, the son notes that she rarely summons officials for one-on-one meetings. His father explains that a young man of unknown origin was found in the capital. This young man claimed to be a descendant of the Chen clan that was massacred in the city. With a serious look, the son wonders if the Empress will take revenge through him. His father says that it doesn't matter if it's true as long as the Empress believes it is. Arriving at the imposing palace, Chen prepares for his audience with the Empress. An official announces his arrival, and the Empress grants his entry into the hall. Inviting him in, the official watches as the protagonist walks toward the throne. He kneels, and the Empress questions him about his ability to lead. Chen says that he will do his best, and that he wishes only to share the burden. Praising his answer, the Empress reveals that there is a complaint against him. She says that a memorial was intercepted and accuses him of taking a maid. Holding up the book, Chen is asked by the Empress how he explains this. He then opens the book and questions if the maid is his wife or concubine. She says that there may be a misunderstanding, and the young man becomes suspicious. He finds her question strange but replies that the girl is his concubine. She says that a concubine is good because she has other plans for his wife. Realizing this part of the story is new and unknown, the protagonist is wary. With a gesture of gratitude, he accepts the Empress Dowager's favor. She then sends him to the medicinal kitchen to take a medicine and then return. Chen wonders what trick the Empress is planning with that order. In her thoughts, she reveals that she is raising her enemy's son for revenge. She says that humiliating him is the only way to satisfy her desire for vengeance. With an evil smile, she reveals her plan to marry him to her own daughter. Clenching her fist, the Empress says that she will destroy his morals and ethics for revenge. A woman screams the Empress's name with a look of despair and fear. An elderly servant approaches the Empress Dowager with a worried look. She questions her about the demise of Shu and if anything was discovered. The elderly servant reports that the rumor about Shu's betrayal was spread by the Wyong Tower. Furious, the Empress says that they harmed the Directorate of Ceremonial. She then orders her men to attack the tower and purge its informants. With a gesture of contempt, she tells the guards to clean the place where Chen was. Meanwhile, the protagonist receives a bowl of a mysterious medicinal broth. He wonders what kind of broth that is and suspects the Empress's intention. An official encourages him to drink, saying that it is a great tonic for his health. Our hero then drinks the content of the bowl and feels the familiar taste. He realizes that it is the same poison they gave him 1 month ago in the palace. Fortunately, he knows how to detoxify himself, but the process is very complicated. He praises the flavor of the broth, and the official is satisfied with his answer. Saying goodbye, Chen leaves, abandoning the official in the room. Opening a drawer, the white-haired girl looks for something in the closet. She stretches to reach the higher drawers and continues her search. Suddenly, our hero appears and asks what she is looking for there. She is startled and says that she was bored and wanted to find a book to read. Approaching the door, he then closes it with a quick movement. He holds her by the waist and asks if she wants to keep him company. With an embarrassed and nervous look, she refuses the offer. Chen says that it is all right, because she will keep him company for the rest of her life. Suddenly, a guard announces that Commander Yan Ming wants an audience. Our hero wonders why that man would be looking for him. He is then surprised to see that the blue-haired girl came looking for him. She calls him Commander, and he approaches to know what she wants. He questions her about the reason for her unexpected visit to his residence. She informs that the Wayang Tower agreed to the cooperation. With a smirk, he suggests that she show a little sincerity. He then teases her and squeezes her with a malicious look full of double meanings. Picking her up in his arms, Chen says that since she is aware, she will enter with him. Shocked, the blue-haired girl sees that there is another person in the room. The white-haired girl is on the floor in a very compromising position. Staring at her with a smile, Chen questions her if she didn't like the surprise. Embarrassed, the blue-haired girl suggests that they go to the guest room. But the protagonist holds her and says that they can stay right there without problems. He then reveals that the two are his concubines and that they are one family. Shocked by his fetish, the blue-haired young woman wonders what to do. Suddenly, a scream from outside announces that the villains from the tower have arrived. Chen wonders if something happened outside the gate. Two women run desperately and realize that they were the target of an attack. An older woman with sharp claws says that she will take the tower for herself. Hit by a blow, the two women scream in pain from the impact. They fall to the ground, injured and defeated by the mysterious woman's attack. Focusing on one of the fallen women, the camera shows a look of despair and fear. Chen and the blue-haired girl arrive and the fallen young woman is shocked. She looks at the older woman and wonders if she was also a target. Worried, the blue-haired young woman thinks about her grandmother's safety. With a threatening look, the protagonist warns the pavilion not to go too far. A man shouts for his companions to attack and the battle begins. Advancing to attack the older woman, he says that he will fight until the end. He hits her with a blow, but she defends herself and throws him far away. Staring at him with contempt, the older woman says that it won't be that easy to defeat her. Terrified, the blue-haired girl doesn't know what to do in the situation. She then suggests that Commander Chen lure the enemies away from there. Chen takes off his clothes and asks what she is trying to do with him. He grabs her and says that she should lure the enemies away. In a quick move, he kisses her, and the young woman lets out a surprised sound. She pulls away and says that it is not the time for that and that they are in danger. He hugs her and says that if she cooperates, everything will be fine between them. The elderly woman sees them together, and the protagonist kisses the girl to disguise the situation. Shocked, the blue-haired young woman doesn't understand what her grandmother is doing there. Chen gets dressed and the older woman accuses him of hiding a villain in his residence. He then introduces the girl as his new concubine to calm the situation. She says that she will find out if she is a villain just by touching her body. Approaching, the blue-haired young woman has her wrist held tightly by the older woman. She asks her granddaughter to stay safe and stares at her with a worried look. She confirms that she has no cultivation base and is not from the enemy tower. She then warns him not to get into trouble and blames him for anything that happens. Saying goodbye, the older woman leaves, abandoning the two behind. Sighing in relief, the blue-haired girl is glad they managed to deceive her grandmother. Suddenly, she feels a sharp pain and lets out a groan of discomfort. Chen holds her and asks what is happening to her. Poisoned, the young woman says, and her eyes fill with tears of pain. She begs for his help and says that she doesn't want to perish in that way. She reveals that the poison is the three suns dispersed QI. Shocked, Chen realizes that it is the same poison that can rupture meridians. He questions her about where the poison was applied, and she remains silent. Ashamed, she points down and says that the poison is in her intimate areas. Chen stares at her and says that she really applied the poison there. Desperately, the blue-haired girl hugs him and begs him to save her. Back in the room, the white-haired young woman says that she has already cleaned the ointment. Our hero hands her an elixir and says that it will alleviate the spread of the poison. Thanking him, the blue-haired girl takes the pill he offered her. He then questions her about the poison and accuses her of being involved in a plot against him. Imploring for her life, the young woman says that she was forced by the Wayang Tower. Chen is not convinced and says that she is not totally without fault. She admits her error and kneels, asking for forgiveness for her actions. She then offers to be his servant and buy her own freedom. Remaining silent, Chen seems to ponder her proposal. He then tells her to stay there and redeem herself from her errors with him. Happy and surprised, the blue-haired young woman reacts to his acceptance of her request. Chen leaves her with the other girl and tells her to keep an eye on her. She thinks that he is not as bad as she imagined. Sitting on the bed, the young man thinks that he needs to improve his strength to face the enemies. He then takes the manual that he gained and begins to study it carefully. It informs that he trained for 2 years, but failed to master the technique. He is frustrated with the result and realizes that the manual is more difficult than he thought. After 5 years of practice, he still hasn't managed to obtain good results. In the 20th year, he stops practicing and concentrates on understanding the technique. After 49 years, he finally comprehends the essence of the technique. He then realizes that even with so much training, the technique is still at the beginner level. With a punch, he tests the power of the technique and breaks some stones on the ground. He then thinks about the 9 ranks of power of the martial artists in the world. Inside the 9 ranks, chi flows through the body and allows one to defeat many enemies. When the QA enters martial arts, it is possible to rival armored soldiers. In the third rank, key overflows and the artist becomes a small Grand Master. Chen realizes that with the new technique, he can reach the 6th rank. The next day, he goes to a residence with very traditional architecture. He walks through the courtyard, and a man approaches to receive him with respect. The official invites him to visit the depot, but the young man has other plans. He then hands him a case file for him to familiarize himself with the work. Our hero agrees, and the man guides him through the courtyard with the file in hand. It reports on the private construction of infant pagodas in the suburbs. Curious, Chen asks about the construction of the infant pagodas. He reads the file and discovers that they were used to abandon sick babies. With time, people began to abandon babies in excess in these places. In some extreme villages, they even did horrible things to the babies. Rolling up the scroll, Chen wonders why they did that. With a serious look, he says that it is all just an excuse not to raise them. The official explains that they are sending the depot to deal with the evil energy. With a smirk, the man agrees and says that they will leave immediately. Riding together toward the infant pagoda, the protagonist and his men advance. The official explains that corrupt officials are forcing the people to revolt. Then the scene shows us the imposing pagoda surrounded by a mysterious energy. Approaching the tower, the group of riders prepares for the mission. Upon arriving, the protagonist dismounts and observes the place with a serious look. He then orders his men to arrest everyone and find the culprits. The official calls him and tells him to dismount, but the protagonist ignores him. With an irritated look, he asks if the man didn't hear what he said. Smiling, the official says that he didn't expect the commander to have compassion. He then tells him to dismount and stares at him with a challenging look. Chen questions why the tower file was only brought up now. The official accuses the Lin faction of ruining court affairs with its corruption. He questions if that was done by his party to cause dissatisfaction. The official says that the party wants to prepare a prescription to save the world. With a look of anger, he blames the Lin faction for the loss of the babies. Drawing his sword, Chen prepares for the battle that is approaching. Irritated, the official tells Commander Chen to dismount and stop talking. He advances with his sword and tries to hit the protagonist's horse. With a sword strike, our hero hits him and says that he is looking for trouble. With a serious look, the man observes the scene as a dark energy surrounds him. With a shout of fury, he orders everyone to attack Commander Chen. Shouting and accusing him of being a traitor of the Lin faction, the men advance. Complaining about the noise, Chen prepares for the counterattack. He releases a wave of golden energy and hits all the enemies at once. Shocked, the official is stunned by the power and strength of our hero. He doesn't understand how the young man can be so strong and questions him about his rank. Terrified, the official sees the strength and skill of Commander Chen. With a single blow of a sword, the protagonist defeats another enemy. Irritated, the official says that he will defeat him no matter what. He advances with a sword strike, but our hero is faster. With a cold look, he prepares to show his true strength in the battle. Chen provokes him, saying that his blade is too slow for him. With a quick blow, he hits him, and the man flies away from the impact. Fallen on the ground, the man curses him and says that he will not come to a good end. Chen says that the Lin faction does not give him the right to harm the kingdom. With a desperate look, the man asks him to finish it quickly. Chen then says that now he has his attention and stares at him. With a scream of pain, the man is hit, and the protagonist leaps for the final blow. Walking through the forest, the blue-haired girl is followed by a group of men. Suddenly, she is surprised to see the protagonist in the middle of the battlefield. He is surrounded by fallen bodies and repeats that the Lin faction harms the kingdom. Staring at our hero's bloody blade with fear, the man on the ground waits. He begs the young man to finish it quickly and stares him with despair. Chen says that he will send him back to the capital after dealing with him. He spares the man's life and tells him to explain everything that happened to the prince. Revolted, the man says that Commander Chen cannot control the entire party. With a challenging look, our hero says that he will deal with everything that the depot dares not. He then turns to the blue-haired girl and stares at her with a smile. She wonders why he is still smiling after finishing off so many people. It shows the gains of Chu that he obtained with her negative emotion. He then explains that the infant tower was the result of the con events of Wanggu. Chen orders his men to take the children and arrest the culprits. She wonders if he is not as bad as she thought. He then approaches her and hands her the manual of her grandfather's technique. She does not accept, and the protagonist says that it is a reward for her arriving on time. She refuses again and says that she prefers to exchange something with him later. Realizing her self-respect, the young man stares at her with admiration. Several hours later, the full moon illuminates the night and starry sky. Returning to his residence, Chen announces that he is back. He finds the white-haired girl in bed and asks if she slept well. She says that she slept well and even had an interesting dream. She recounts that she dreamed of a woman arguing with him and trying to take her away. This woman in the dream did not like him and had a lot of hatred in her heart. With a curious look, she asks if he knows the woman in her dream. Chen reveals that the woman's name is Zhou Yitang, and the girl is surprised. She questions him how he knows her and feels a strange discomfort with it. He says that he knows her but that she doesn't know him and that there will be an opportunity. Our hero then tells her to rest and says that he will not bother her anymore. Then, the scene takes us to the imposing Prince Jing's residence during the night. A man asks who made the decision to eliminate the guard commander. The kneeling men are silent, and the older man seems irritated. Prince Jing assumes the responsibility and says that it was his intention. He explains that the commander was from the Lin faction and that they could not risk it. With his demise, a man without a faction would take over and facilitate their plans. Reprimanding him, the old man asks if he thought about the consequences of failing. He says that a mere commander cannot cause an uprising alone. Sighing, the older man says that now they can only clean up the mess. Silent, the prince seems to be thinking of a solution to the problem. With an irritated look, he suggests that they send a 5th-rank master to eliminate him. But the old man says that if the prince continues to make moves, the empress will intervene. His advisor then reminds the prince about the prayer ceremony that is approaching. Confused, the prince doesn't understand what the old man means by that. The advisor explains that during the ceremony, the capital becomes vulnerable to evil spirits. At that moment, monsters and demons will appear, and they can blame the commander for the deaths. With a smirk, the prince realizes that they still have a chance to win. Suddenly, a purple-haired girl enters and wonders who they are talking about. Reprimanding her, the prince says that she should not meddle in matters she doesn't know about. The advisor then asks what the name of the commander in charge of the depot is. He says that the name doesn't matter because he is already a doomed man. Staring at him, the girl says that she cares about a person from the eastern depot. Curious, the prince asks who the person she cares about so much is. She reveals that she is the person of the prophecy and that she has a connection with the Tao. She continues saying that if he follows her, he can become a golden youth. He then agrees not to harm the descendant of the Min family during the attack. Saying a prayer, the purple-haired girl thanks her father for his decision. The scene changes, and the blue-haired young woman is surprised to see that Chen sent her the manual. She realizes that he is altruistic and that she misjudged him the whole time. A man reports that the master fought against 15 people and only 5 survived. They comment that it is no wonder that he became the interim director. Suddenly, one of them notices the arrival of the protagonist and tells the others to be quiet. Our hero approaches the group and tells the person in charge of the records to leave. He then enters the residence and tells the old lady not to worry. Startled, the woman asks what he is doing in her room. Chen tells her to let him go up, and the old woman agrees with a gesture. He goes up the stairs, and the woman guides him through the corridor with a suspicious look. Entering a room, Chen finds 2 women waiting for him. One of the women stares at him, and the protagonist is surprised to see her there. With a smirk, he tells the sister not to worry because he is in control. Confused, the pink-haired girl doesn't understand why he called her sister. Approaching, the other woman says that she is there to talk to him. 2 men bow and ask what Commander Chen's instructions are. He sends them to the archives to retrieve all cases related to Prince Jing. With a determined look, he says that he will not let the Dingen faction get away with it. One of the men says that the archives have already been reviewed and there are no problems. With a smirk, the protagonist tells him to investigate again without questioning. Startled by his order, the 2 men agree to obey immediately. The scene ends with white doves flying over the city during the night. They inform that the archives are all there for him to inspect. Opening one of the scrolls, Chen tells the 2 men to leave the room. With a gesture of respect, the 2 bow and withdraw from the office. Suddenly, the blue-haired girl enters the room and calls him by name. He questions her about her presence, and she says that she has something to discuss. Sitting down, Chen asks what she wants to talk about with him. Approaching, the young woman touches his face with a serious and determined look. He is startled by her attitude and asks what she is trying to do. In a quick move, she kisses him and the protagonist is surprised. Pulling away, the blue-haired girl says that now she has returned the favor. Confused, Chen doesn't understand what she means by that. He provokes her and asks if she didn't like the kiss he gave her. She says that she didn't need to return the favor, but her conscience wouldn't let her rest. Chen warns her that she will have many favors to return in the future. He then threatens her, saying that her dark history could come to light. Calling him crazy, the blue-haired young woman turns to leave. Suddenly, a carrier pigeon enters through the window, and she recognizes it. She realizes that it is her sister's pigeon and wonders if something has happened. Carefully, the girl takes the note that the pigeon brought and opens it. On the note is written in large letters the taboo word of the 100 flowers. With a look of panic, she realizes that something really happened to her sister. The scene takes us to a large building during the night with a starry sky. A pink-haired woman delicately plays a stringed instrument. She is sitting in a quiet room, and the melody echoes through the environment. Suddenly, a purple-haired woman enters and observes her with a serious look. She asks why the immortal maiden honors her with her presence. Telling her to continue playing, the purple-haired woman asks if she knows a song. Staring at each other, the 2 agree for the pink-haired girl to play the song. The blue-haired young woman tells her sister to investigate and that she should be careful.